The US is absorbed with jobs and taper talk. The ECB is playing the waiting game and EM central banks try in vain to support their currencies. But how are the Scandies shaping up? A host of data has been released today and Harald-Magnus Andreassen joins me to share his insights. Harald, fundamental factors seem to support a stronger krona, as NOK is now running around 3% weaker than the Norges Bank forecast in December 2013. The recent January housing numbers from Norway show a healthier market, although with a lower price development pace than last year. Today's manufacturing report also beat expectations, but on the other hand, inflation has remained unchanged and slow growth in retail sales may lead for a weaker NOK. So on balance, Harald-Magnus, what is your outlook?
Well, you're right. There has been news on the upside and on the downside. The housing market, I wouldn't say it's healthy, but the price decline has been reduced the previous 2 months, looking at the month-to-month figures. And we have seen some life coming into the manufacturing sector, and that might be due to the sharp depreciation of the currency over the past year. And we also have had surveys indicating that businesses are recognizing higher orders from export markets. At the same time, inflation is higher than it was last summer, but it hasn't climbed for recent months, and it's still broadly in line with the Norges Bank's forecast. I think those mixed news. I must also add that retail sales have been quite weak. If you take that on balance, I think the Norges Bank is quite uncertain on what to do next. And when uncertain, you can just stay on hold. So I don't expect Norges Bank to make any major changes in its assessment of the economy near term.
The Swedish industrial production and orders were also out today and fell below expectations. Now the report might have been overshadowed by the US NFP, but could be key for the Riksbank in determining the near-term developments. While anticipating a dovish tilt to future policy due to inflation forecasts, analysts hadn't expected the Riksbank to cut rates at their meeting next week, but did say a poor data performance today could increase pressure. Do you think the disappointing IPO could put a spanner in the works?
Oh no, not at all. And the reason is quite simple. We had a huge increase in production in Sweden last month, and that was due to an unbelievable and I think it's quite wrong increase in production in electronics, some 57% up in 1 month, and that took up the average for the manufacturing sector by 5 in 1 month. However, in December, production in that sector declined back to where it came from. Still, it was just a minor decline in the overall production. And I think that manufacturing data from Sweden, in fact, has been quite encouraging over the past 2 months. And if anything, it's a reason for not doing anything, at least not cutting rates, near term in Sweden. And also, we have a lot of business surveys. All of them are telling that the manufacturing sector is now gaining speed.
The Danish economy received a bit of a dressing down from the S&P in their analysis that the nation's mortgage bond market will get government support if it gets into trouble. Denmark have since rejected this claim. But according to the ratings agency, without urgent structural reform, Denmark's economy will already be in a crisis in terms of krone speculation and high inflation, warranting some form of intervention if mortgage banks can't sell their bonds. How real is this risk to your mind?
It's always a risk for that when you have a very high debt level, which Denmark has. On the other hand, we have already seen house prices decline substantially from its peak. We have seen debt ratios coming down, and they're still on the way down. And I think if the European economy is now finding a sort of more stable footing, we have seen GDP increasing in Europe over the past 2 quarters, and it will continue upwards in the 4th quarter. Business surveys are quite upbeat, even in Spain, in the south, and of course in the north. I think the Danish economy will get support from that, and I think it's less likely that we will have more problems for household on the income side and thus on serving their debt. So I would have been more afraid for Denmark 5 or 6 years ago, before the housing bubble burst at that time. So I think the angst for Denmark might be a bit too late.
Lovely to speak to you as always, Harald-Magnus. Thank you so much for your time. Well, viewers, that's all from me for this week, but on Monday I'll be bringing you a bit of an update on Bitcoin, so please do click back for that. Goodbye for now.